Please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Connect with Control-M webinar. My name is Octavio Vasquez, and today we will be taking a look at Workload Change Manager add-on. This is a new Control-M add-on that helps us to improve the workload change process and empower our end users to access Control-M. Let's start by taking a look at today's agenda. We're going to start with an overview of the Workload Change Manager add-on. We'll review the architecture to know the place of Workload Change Manager in Control-M. We'll continue with the description of the main activities that are performed on Workload Change Manager. After that, we will have a demo where I'm going to show you the workflow of the product and how to set some configurations on it. We will end up with a Q&A session. On the right side of your screen, you can see a box for Q&A. You can type your questions at any time of there at any time of the presentation, and we're going to answer them at the end of the session, okay? So now let's move to the Workload Change Manager overview. Workload Change Manager is a Control-M add-on that helps us to create a structured managed workload change process by creating and managing site standard policies for multiple environments and applications to eliminate all the non-standard job definitions. It also helps us to centralize the management of job flows with a collaboration portal that automates and simplifies the creation of the workflows. Workload Change Manager also improves service delivery by simplifying the process to get the workflows on our production, reducing the possibility of errors and the risk of failure. It gives the end users access to Control-M with a simple web interface that graphically designs and let them view their workflows without having to become a workload automation expert and have access to the regular Control-M client. Now we're going to take a look at the main activity, to the Workload Change Manager architecture, okay? So let's move there. Workload Change Manager is a web app that is deployed on the Control-M web server. It's similar to self-service or Beam. There's no need to create a new component in the configuration manager. That's the difference with self-service or Beam. The end users are going to create the workload change request on the new web interface that is here on the left, and on the workload automation client on the right. We have added new sections since 6.3 for Control-M Enterprise Manager 8. With those sections, we handle the requests, we submit or checking them when they are ready, and we also use the workload automation client to set some configuration of the product. Now I'm going to explain the activities that are performed on Workload Change Manager. For product activation, Workload Change Manager is delivered with 6.3 for Control-M Enterprise Manager 8. It is a license-separate product, like self-service, for example. So please check with your BMC sales representative to make sure that you are licensed for Workload Change Manager. Once you have validated that you have a license, you can go to our EPD site, download the activation scripts, and execute them on the Control-M Enterprise Manager server to activate the product and start using it. The first thing to do is defining site customization standards and business parameters. these are three new concepts that have been introduced with Workload Change Manager. I'm going to explain them and show you them later on the demo. So we will say let them for the demo. Now, the end users can then submit workload change requests via the web interface. The change requests are then reviewed and either sent back to the end users for modifications or approved and checked into the job flow. We will now go over each of these activities in the demo in more detail, okay? For the demo, we're going to see the request lifecycle and how to configure the site customization standards and business parameters for Workload Change Manager. We will see the next configurations working on the request lifecycle. We are going to set a site customization that is going to make only folders and always job form available for the end users on the web interface. We are going to configure a specific format for the job name field. This is the format that we're going to use for the example. We are going to set the description field as required, and we are going to set a length limit, and also we're going to specify which special characters are not allowed on this field. And finally, we're going to use a business parameter for the run as field. I will talk more about the business parameter on the demo, okay? So now let's move to our demo environment. So first, let's go to our Workload Change Manager login page. As you can see, it is a web page, and here is the URL that we use to access the login page. It's a very similar URL to like self-service. You can see it here. So I'm going to log in. And here's the Workload Change Manager main page. We have these three sections. My request. On this section, the end user is going to see all the requests that he has created and the status of each request. We have the Open Existing Job Flow section. On this section, we can see all the existing job flows, so we are able to modify existing job flows. This part of the main page is, well, the information displayed here is controlled via the authorizations specified for the user. So if the user requires browser permissions for the folders that are going to be displayed on this section. If the end user doesn't have the browse permission for the folder, he's not going to see the default list on this section. And finally, the other request section. On this section, we can see all the requests submitted by all the end users and the status of those requests. So now let's start by creating a new request. So we are going to start by defining the name of the request. We have this change ID field that can be used for enter an internal ticket number. So then you can integrate the request with your ticketing system. We have this email notification address field. On this field, we're going to enter the email address where we want to be notified about any change of the status of the request. We have the site standard field. On this field, we're going to see all the site standards available for our environment. We have the run as field. The run as field is appearing here because I have defined a business parameter for this field. So I have to select one of the available values for this field. I'm going to select this one, for example. We have the Control-M, where we can select the Control-M server that we want to use, and the folder type. The folder type, we can use a regular folder or a smart folder. I'm going to select regular folder for this. Okay, so this is the request workspace. As you can see, it is very similar to the planning domain on the workload automation client. Please get notice that we only have the folder and the OS job form available. That's because we have configured a site customization that only let the end users to see those two items. With the site customization, we are able to hide the unnecessary options to our end users. That's why we only have these two options here. We can have all the application forms available for Control-M on this field, but with our site customization, we are controlling that. So I'm going to start by entering a name for the folder. As you can see here, I have the site standard and the run as parameter that I set when I start creating the request. And now I'm going to add a new job. Okay. Here on the job properties, you can see all these warning icons. If you put the mouse over them, you can see what is expected to be introduced on each field. As you can see here for the job name, the form is expecting a specific format, application-sub-application job name, as we have configured in our site standard. So the description field is marked as required. And since I'm going to start with the job name, I'm going to enter the application name first to use it in the job name field. So I'm going to select the payroll application and the report sub application. Okay. So now I have the two values that I need to create the job name. So I'm going to start by entering the application name, a dash. For the example, let's suppose that I forget to add the sub-application name here. I'm going to enter a description. Okay. Going to select command. And I want to use this user ID as the run as user. You can see that the warnings are still there, so that means that the values are not correct. But let's suppose that I'm starting with Workload Change Manager, so I'm going to submit this request anyway. So let's submit it. Okay, some warnings were found during the validation. No, I want to check the warning messages. And as you can see here, the messages are very clear about what are the errors and how to fix them, okay? So for the description field, we have that the value should not contain these special characters. And I have a star symbol here, okay? For the job name, sub-application is missing. It should be reports, yeah. And I missed to type it, okay? And for the run as user, the value should be CPM server because that's the value that I enter when I started creating these requests. Okay, I'm a new user on Workload Change Manager, so I'm going to add a note for the scheduler. Workload Change Manager gives us this feature for the communication between the requester and the scheduler. So I'm going to say, please help me to fix this request. And I'm going to submit my request. As you can see, the request appears now in my request section, and the status is scheduler works. So let's move to the workload automation client to see my request. Let me take this out. We have added these new sections with the fix factory for Control-M Enterprise Manager 8, the My Work and the Unassigned Work. As you can see, the request is appearing in the Unassigned Work section. So me as a scheduler can take the ownership of the request and start reviewing it. Let's do that. Okay. So I take ownership of this request. And as you can see here, I have the notes icon that let me know that we have a note that has been added by the end user. Let's check it. Okay, I can see here the note. Now, I'm going to check the validation, the warning messages. The warning messages are the same. Okay, so I'm going to return the request to the end user. I'm going to add a note for him. Okay, and let's return the request. That's it. So now the request has been moved to my work section. You can see the status of the request is returned. So it is now on the end user side. Let's see it. Here it is, the request with the return status. So I'm going to open it to fix it. Okay. And now I see the note that has been added by my scheduler, and I'm going to fix the errors on the definition. I'm going to add the missing reports word here. As soon as I add it, you can see that the warning icon has disappeared because now the value is correct. So let's fix now the description field by removing the star symbol, the special character. That's it. And now I'm going to enter the expect value, CTM server, on the run as field. Okay, so now my request is correct. The end user is able to validate the request at any time with this validation button. As you can see now, the request is ready. So I'm going to resubmit it. Close. So now it is back on the scheduler side. So the scheduler is going to open the request again, check that there are no errors now on it, so it is ready for checking. So that's the request lifecycle on Workload Change Manager. Now let's take a look at how we set those configurations for the product. These configurations are set on the tools domain. Let me show you the new options that have been added since Fix Factory. Here is the site customization and site standard options that allow us to set these configurations. So let's start by the site customization. The site customization, as I explained before, enable us to hide unnecessary options for the end users. We can only have one site customization available at the time, active at the time. That's why we have these default options here. We can create several site customizations, but only one can be active at the time, okay? And the site customization is configured as next. We have these two sections here. job properties, and job types. On the job types, we have all the application forms that are available on Control-M. So here on this section, we can select which options are going to be available for the end users. For our example, we only left the folder and OS job available for our end user, and that's what we saw on the web interface. We also have the job properties section. On these sections, we have all the parameters of the job properties, of the job definition. So we can select which fields are available for the end users to modify or enter values on there. We can remove specific fields, or we can also remove an entire tab of the job properties for the end users view. For example, we can remove the undo actions tab for the end user, so they will not see it on the job properties, and they will not be able to enter any value on that tab. Now let's move to the site standards. So let's take a look on that. The site standards are, function like policies or rules for our jobs parameters. So we can specify some rules, formats, also control the length and characters that are allowed for each field. Also, we can say this field is required for me. Let me show you how I configure it for our example. So on our example, we have seen that the job name parameter has a specific format. The format was application-sub-application job name. And here is how I have configured it. I select the job name field. Here is the list of all the parameters that we can configure, all the job parameters that we can configure on the site standard. So I select job name. I select the pattern parts option to create my format. Here is how I build it. Application dash sub-application dash, and finally the string of the job name. For the job name string, I have also created an internal rule. Here is my internal rule for the job name string. I have limited the length of the string from 5 to 20 characters, and also I have allowed specific characters for the string. In this case, I only allow uppercase and lowercase and digits for my string. So any other character will not be allowed for the job name string, okay? Now let's take a look at the description field. The description field has been marked as required with this option, and we have set length for the string. We have 20 characters to 2000. Also, I have selected the any character is allowed option, because for the description we usually enter spaces. That's why I select this option. And on this field, I just type the specific special characters that are not allowed for the string. That's why the job form was complaining about the star symbol. Finally, let's take a look at the run as field. For that field, as you can recall, we have used a business parameter. The business parameter enables us to define a list of predefined values for a field. So for my site standard, I add the run as field, and I said that for the run as field, I want to use a business parameter. Here is the business parameter that I have created for the run as field. And as you can see, here is the list of the values that are available for this field. These are the only values that are allowed for this field. That's how the business parameter works. A list of predefined values, and nothing different to those values will be accepted for the field. Okay, so now let's go back to our slides. Oh, just to recall some concepts. As you can recall, the URL that we use to access the Workload Change Manager is an URL very similar for to the one that we use for other products like self-service. Here is the Enterprise Manager host name and the port of the web server, and we only add Workload Change Manager instead self-service. Remind that Workload Change Manager is available since 6.3 for Control-M Enterprise Manager 8. So you need to install the 6.3 on your Control-M Enterprise Manager server and clients in order to see the new options added on the client side, and also to get the Workload Change Manager web app deployed on the Control-M web server. And once you have activated the product, you can start using it. The site customization, site standards, and business parameters are the three new concepts introduced with the Workload Change Manager. They are related to the configuration that we set for the product. The site customizations hide the unnecessary options to the end users on the web interface. The site standards functions like policies and rules for the job parameters. And the business parameter creates a list of predefined values that we can use for a specific field. Well, thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate your time for joining us. In the future, you will receive a survey and the list of the future topics that we will cover on the Connect with Control-M webinar. We will appreciate if you take some minutes to fill the survey. That helps us to improve the content and our job with this Connect with Control-M sessions. The upcoming Connect with Control-M webinar is planned for July, and it will be about the AST file watcher and SSL. I remind you to follow us on the Control-M social media like Twitter, Facebook, and BMC community. Also, don't forget to use the newsfeed option in your workload automation client. And well, we will move now to the Q&A session. Okay, I'm going to move here to see the list of the latest Control-M webinar sessions that have been recorded. Here's the list of the latest sessions. You can watch them on YouTube, and also they are available on iTunes. I strongly recommend you to check them if you have lost any of these sessions. They are very, very useful, and they have a lot of useful material and resources. And well, thank you very much for attending, and have a great day.